Down through the years, the Lord been good to me. God bless you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Down through the years. Yes, we had some ups and downs, but the Lord been good to us. My name is Javan Lance. I was born October the 17th, 1939. My mother's name was Clara Lennon Lance. My father's name was Singleton Lance. He was born in the Dunbar section of Georgetown, South Carolina. I am the sixth child of seven. Sixth child of seven. I attend Dunbar School, Dunbar Elementary School, through the seventh grade. Then we was bused to Howard High School here in Georgetown. We went to attend Howard High School for 2 years, and the Choppee High School was built. We had to go in the country to Choppee High School. Choppee High School was built, and we was transported to Choppee School. In the 9th grade, I took the test for school bus driving. Because my father was sick. He had a massive stroke, could not work. So being the school bus driver, that would help the family. Though at that time it was only I drive high school bus for 3 years. Okay, at that time, during the time my father was sick, he couldn't work. So then I was chosen to be one of the school bus drivers. Back during that time, school bus driver was paid $35 per month. But out of the $35 per month, I would help my father do what would need to be done for the family, because being sick, back during that time, Social Security was only giving him $28 a month. So then it was hard. So I wanted to quit school and go to work. But he encouraged me not to quit school, and go to work. He said that the Lord would make a way somehow. And we made it through. As I said, it was rough. It was rough, and the Lord fixed us so I was chosen to get the bus, and that was a blessing to the family. I was a student driver, and as I say, $35 a month, and I would help my father buy grocery because it was only receiving $28 a month from Social Security. He had to pay doctor bills and stuff like that. It was rough. Before my father got sick, my plan was I wanted to go to college to be a high school principal. But, through sickness, I was deprived of the privilege. We went to school. I graduated from Choppee School on June the 5th, 1960. And from what we went through at the time, I walked out in the road and I asked the Lord, please, Lord, please don't let me be broke. You know what I mean by being broke. Like I was during the time we was in school, because you see, I couldn't even go to lunch because lunch was 25 cents. But then we couldn't even go to lunch during that time. My route, I had sometime up to 40. I had a 48 passenger bus. So then, well, 48 passenger bus. So then that would be close to load, not the same amount every day because you know how things go, but I drove 3 years driving the bus. From back during that time, the beginning of it, we had to leave from Dunbar and come down to Francis Marion Stowe and go around, which was, 21, 28 miles. But the school is only about 5 or 6 miles from the house. But see, Black River come between there. So we had to go around. Yes. It was about 80. A lot of them going on, a lot of them still here when we graduated in the year 1960. Yeah. So, as I said, we stopped at the Dunbar school and taught me and the other bus drivers, and I asked the Lord to help me. And then, because the reason why we did that, because we didn't know if we would ever see one another again, because that was June the 5th, 1960, when I asked God again. And then I didn't have one penny in my pocket. After I finished that summer working on the plantation, working at home with my daddy's farm and working on other people's farm for $3 a day. We got $3 per day. And September 1960, I went to Syracuse, New York to live with my brother. I got a job with a small contractor. His name was Herb Leslie. He told me that his mother was from Georgetown. His mother was from Georgetown. So then I worked for him for a while. Then I moved to the Bronx, New York. After I moved there, I worked for, first job I had was for Mo Steinberg Hat Company. I worked in the shipping department, and I don't know, you see, pushing the hand truck down 42nd Street, delivering stuff, to different store and different stuff like that in New York. Then moved to Brooklyn, New York. I was just a little bit more money, and that's when I got married. I got married to Pearl Giles, and she became a Lance. And that was March the 9th, 1963. March the 9th, 1963. We had 7 children. We had the second to the last child was Jerry. And he died at birth. So now we have 6 children. And Pearl, my wife, died at January 17, 2016. And so that's sort of some of what going on with my personal life. About 3 years. 3 years. Yeah, I moved to Brooklyn. After I moved to Brooklyn, stayed, then see, because of my father being sick, we decided to move back here and to run the small farm and do what we do. And we here after I moved back here. Now, at first I worked building the bridge coming into Georgetown. I worked there Then I worked for Rocco Stainless Steel Manufacturing Company. And from Rocco, the stainless steel manufacturing company, I went to driving tractor and trailer. I went to take the course and drive tractor and trailer. So then I run over about at least 16 states driving tractor and trailer. And then after that, I start working with what's the name of the plantation? True Brew Plantation. I went to True Brew Plantation. I worked there for a while, and the next plantation I worked for was Waverly Plantation. I worked there for a while, and that's where I got in touch with the Constances and start working for Chicora Wood Plantation. Their plan was to do a turf farm. So then the man that I was working for, he chose me, because I was helping him around the yard. So then he chose me to go to Chicora Wood Plantation to be over the people that was clearing the site for the turf. And so my job was doing the garden and keeping the time. So I did that until we get the turf farm going. And I worked there for 3 years. Then after 3 years, then they hired my wife, Pearl, to be their cook, because he asked me, could my wife cook? So I tell him, well, you cook for us. And so he said, well, we want to interview her. So she went down and they interviewed her, and she worked there I worked there for 23 years. She worked there for about 18 years. And that's where she took the stroke at. She took a stroke on the job at Chicora Wood Plantation. It was good to us. So that's how I got started with Chicora Wood Plantation and worked there for 22 years. Now, that's that, 23 years. Yes, so they was good people. They treat us real good. Yeah. Danny Bradshaw was there. He was living there. Let's see, there was no one else living there, because whenever they go back to Santa Barbara, then me and my wife, we would stay there to look after things and keep things going, on the plantation. And when they come back, then we would move back to our house in Dunbar. Yeah. And so that's how that had worked. But she worked there, and I worked 23 years for them. Chicora Wood was owned by the Alston, and in 1864, that Chicora Wood Plantation was one of the chief manufacturer or growing for rice and stuff like that, because the old rice mill, I think, is still inside the building. I know the building that they used to process the rice in is still the building is still there. Now some of the stuff is still in there, but so far as knowing what it is or what it would do, if it was a mortar like this, then I would know, because see, I know this is the mortar that they used beat the rice out of the little shell. Yes, yes. So that's what we did down on the plantation. My wife was the cook. My great grandfather name was Israel Lance. Great grandfather name was Israel Lance. My grandfather name was Hanover Lance, and his wife was Regina Rice. Virginia Rice, well, was Lance after he married to my aunt. And I was told that she was half Native American, half Indian. So that would be my great grandmother. And these are the name of the slave. I'll give you the name of the slave that I was told that put their little money together and bought Dunbar, where I live at. And Dunbar consists of 640 acres. It was bought in June the 6th, 1873. 1873. So then when I look back at it and see when Abraham Lincoln, when the states had to be unionized, the state couldn't, if you're a member of the union, you couldn't have slaves. So then that's when the slave, lose their job as a slave, but they didn't have no place to go. So then my ancestors stayed there until 1873, because if he freed a slave in 1865, then they had to stay there till they get their little money together, and they bought Dunbar and moved to Dunbar. So then my grandfather, well, I'll give you a name. The ones that bought it were Ransom Rice, Ishmael Nicholson, Israel Lance, which was my great-great-grandfather, Edward Coker, August Lennon, which on my mother's side, that would be my great-great-grandfather, August Lennon, and William Biller Lennon, which would be his brother, Daniel Washington, Jonas White, Jeffrey Small, Ben Johnson, Vavery Ford, and Abram Hope Ford. Those are the slaves that bought Dunbar. And I was told these things. Now I wasn't there, but I was told that that's how it went down. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, it's right on the Black River. Mm-hmm. And Dunbar itself was a plantation, I was told. Dunbar was a plantation. And the slave and the man that had owned Dunbar, his name was Dunbar. So then the slave, our ancestor, bought Dunbar from Mr. Dunbar. And that's how he got his name. Okay, I have a lot of relatives there on both sides. Most of them die out. I am about the oldest one of my close relative, because on the mother's side, the Lennon side, I think there is one young lady that is older than me. And on my daddy's side, far as I can tell, there's one, she's not older than me, but she's right behind me. But then there's one on the mother's side, well, two, because Thomas in Florida. There's one or two, because I don't know if Thomas is still living or not, but he's in Florida. And Helen live on Choppee. She's my first cousin, my mother, brother, daughter. But I have other relatives that is younger in the area, in the Dunbar area, in Choppee area. Mm-hmm. Okay, they were selling the turf. Well, individuals that wanted to do their yard. Then we did a lot of the golf course over around, Myrtle Beach, Paulus Island, and I think we had sent turf up in North Carolina and upstate, and down between Georgia and Charleston, and around Charleston and place. But we was pretty busy we was pretty busy pretty well the whole time. But after, you see, I was in charge. Okay, I grew up farming. There was people who had who went to school for it. But you don't beat experience. I mean, a lot of times with just the experience, a person could not even be able to read. But if you got the experience and know how to do things, then so the turf farm run for about 10 years after I left, 10 or 15 years. And they had to close it down. They closed it down. Constance, well, they was old. They went back to Santa Barbara. And now the turf farm is closed. But I worked there those years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot more, but I just don't remember everything. Yes, Lord. Yes. But they was good people, I should say that. They treated us real good. Oh, I actually joined the church and baptized. Well, I went there all my life from 5 years old. We had to walk a mile to get to church. But anyway, I was there all my life until, and still there. I was baptized and I was 14 years old. And I was there ever since. So after I moved back from New York, I was about 27 years old. And they get me to be the church to help the man who was in charge, the church clerk, because by being older, they didn't know how to write and read things. And I'm not the best, but then I was better than he was. And so then I did that I was 27 years old. Now I'll soon be 82. So then I was doing it from, how much years would that be? 53, about 52, 53 years. I was church clerk at Mount Olive Baptist Church. Then a few years ago, they chose me as one of the deacons of the church. So then I'm still doing the same work at the church. Thank God. Yes, Lord. Yeah. And we raise up all of our children just like our father, daddy raised us up right there at Mount Olive Baptist Church in Dunbar. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, Lord.